My product was precise and exactly what I wanted.
So don't wait any longer to add a personal touch to your products. Call Romika Laser Engraving and Custom Designs today at 817-400-4040 or visit our website at romikadesigns.com. We look forward to helping you make your mark.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395.
Hey, travelers, do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call, because the best prices are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at ridiculously low prices. Our prices are too low to publish online. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next flight. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find ridiculously low prices for you. Call SmartFares today and get the best price on your next flight. Guaranteed. Also, save up to 50% off business and first class tickets.
855-325-1820. 855-325-1820. That's 855-325-1820.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395.
Good evening, Johnson County. Welcome to this week's episode of The Breakdown. I'm your host, Greg Cooper, and here on The Breakdown, we deep dive local politics, mainly school boards and city councils, but any and all Johnson County politics are on the table. We air most Thursdays at 5 p.m. You can visit the JoCo Community Radio Facebook page to watch shows live or to see replays. Also, you can go to www.jococommunityradio.com where Apple and Android apps are available. Tune in to get the ins and outs of Johnson County, Texas. Tonight, we have the distinct pleasure of introducing you to the mayor of the city of Burleson, Mr. Chris Fletcher. He just started his second term as mayor. And who is Mayor Chris Fletcher? Well, he's a lifelong Texan, and Mayor Chris Fletcher was born in a small town in West Texas to loving parents who instilled in him the values of hard work, loving the Lord, and serving the community at a young age. Mayor Fletcher spent many of his formidable years working on the family farm before going on to launch his career at Texas Instruments in Lubbock. As he grew in his trade, he learned to design and build manufacturing equipment, a skill that would ultimately launch his very successful career in Burleson down the road. Mayor Fletcher and his family settled in Burleson and founded Texas Overhead Door in 1986. He owned and operated his successful business for over 35 years before ultimately selling the company to his nephew. A strong commitment to service and community, Mayor Fletcher has a long history of giving back to the town he loves so dearly, and previously served on the board of directors for the Burleson Chamber of Commerce and Harvest House, and also sat on a board of directors for a pro bono organization that provided counsel and guidance for small businesses in the region. Mayor Fletcher has a strong relationship with the Lord and has served as a deacon at Burleson Church of Christ for over 20 years. Since he was first elected mayor of Burleson, Mayor Fletcher has earned a reputation for serving with tenacity, integrity, and the highest commitment to his beloved Burleson. With over 35 years of business experience, he's worked tirelessly to foster an environment of growth, economic success, and sound budgeting practices. Mayor Fletcher was recently appointed to the advisory committee of the North Texas Tollway Authority by the Honorable Judge Chris Bodeker of Johnson County and serves on the Tarrant Regional Transportation Coalition to aid in infrastructure development in Burleson and Johnson County. Mayor Fletcher has been married to his beautiful wife and best friend, Nancy, who's a retired kindergarten teacher, for over 43 years. They are the proud parents of 2 grown children and a wonderful son-in-law and grandparents to 2 energetic grandkids. Mayor Fletcher was first elected in November 2020, re-elected May 2023, and has about 2.5 years remaining on his current term. Mayor, the listeners want to meet the mayor. Tell us about yourself, why you decided to run for mayor more so than in your bio here, and your goals as you are in the beginning of your second term, sir.
Thank you. That was a lot. I didn't know you was going to read all of that. Being mayor has been one of the best things I've ever done. Didn't realize it when I first ran. I wasn't real happy about wanting to run for mayor, but I felt the need. I had a lot of good supporters. Hats off to Ken Shetter on the things that he has done. We have Vera Calvin Plaza down there. That was one of his dreams, and also the Burleson Opportunity Fund. I mean, great things. So hats off to him on that. We have really gotten into a time right now of growth and bad economy and a lot of things, and my staff has been top of the line. So Burleson is setting really, really well because of the group effort at City Hall. I like to think that I bring out the best in employees. 30 years in business makes you understand that you're not the driving force. It's your people. And we have that in Burleson. We really do. I'm so proud of all of them up there. And it's fun to be up there. It's fun to work up there now. The thing about the economy and stuff, it's coming back because of our location. And we don't really have a choice. You know, people are moving to Texas. We're south of Fort Worth. We started out being a bedroom community, but because of our economic development group, we are now not quite the bedroom community anymore. We're a center. We're a business center, and that's starting to show up. All the towns around here, we're like the 5th fastest growing county in the Metroplex. You look at places like Parker County. I was at a presentation the other day for TxDOT, and we were getting numbers. They have 22 families a day moving in. So the state of Texas has got a lot of issues to meet that needs. The roads, I did inherit some bad roads and stuff of that nature, on top of new developments needing new infrastructure. So it's been a challenge, but I've got this particular term, I've got a really good council. We agree, we argue, and we come out with the best solution, I feel. So yeah, it's been a fun run.
That's good to hear, and it's great to hear your testament of acknowledging the people around you. There's 2 types of leaders. There's one that surrounds themselves with people that are less capable, less intelligent of them, out of fear and out of lack of self-esteem. And there's ones that surround themselves by people that complement their weaknesses and help move them into the next position and help create the greater good around them. And it sounds like you do that. And that's a true testament to a great leader. So thank you for that.
You bet.
And it's awesome to see in one of it's funny you bring up all the growth in the surrounding communities, and that's one thing a lot of people in Burleson don't know is that a lot of the infrastructure going on that Burleson has to facilitate the thoroughfare to these other communities, which puts a strain on the local economy here.
Okay, so now I'm glad you brought that up, and the fact that recently the county, Judge Bedecker and the commissioners, they decided to have a master plan done at the county, Johnson County, which is good because without that, each town's doing their own program. There's a lot of roads that can be tied together between the towns, and that's something we had to address. So Freeze and Nichols is doing that study. That'll be done in about 14 months. And I'm really excited about that because we can set down as an overall and start making long growth, really, really long growth decisions. Now, and there'll be a lot of people out there say, but you're the mayor of Burleson. Why does that matter to you? Well, Burleson is very benevolent. We help out Johnson County on the task force and stuff of that nature. And basically it's because some of the small towns, they don't have that ability to do that. If we can make them viable, they could help on this. If we take care of our roads in other towns, we can take pressure off our 174 and our intersections, of which we've got great programs to help out on that. But they're Band-Aids. We add more lanes on the 174. That's a Band-Aid. In the next 10 years, the state's projecting 20,000 more people in our town, just our town, nearly 300 in the county. Now, 20,000 in our town's a lot, but that's not a backbreaker. 300,000 in the county driving through our town or beside our town, that could be a backbreaker. So we've got a real infrastructure issue.
I agree. And it's awesome you bring up the master plans. You see a lot of towns doing their master plan. Godly, little city of Godly is just now doing their very first master plan. They've never done one, if you can imagine that. So, and it's great to see a collaborative effort because if, for example, if Joshua does a master plan and basically keeps things too small and too big, the people going through Burleson, through Joshua into Godly, it creates too many difficulties. So it's awesome to see that there's a lot of collaborative effort, and hopefully everyone will work together to facilitate all that. And that brings us to our next point. Your strengths are without a doubt your experience and expertise in the designing and building industry, and your ability to optimize processes. And one of the big issues that comes up with, as so much growth is coming in, 300,000 people to Johnson County, 20,000 to Burleson, there's a lot of money to be made, and there has to be a lot of careful selection of who gets a piece of that business and all that. And I met you originally at a Lone Star Patriots group during the campaign, where you were speaking on a concept called design build, and how you have actually saved the city of Burleson a substantial amount of money by understanding design build and understanding how it works. And there's some benefits to it, but there's definitely some downsides to it too. Can you explain to how you've benefited how some of your decision making has benefited Burleson by understanding design build and kind of putting up some protectorates in place to make sure that that's not the end all be all in some of these negotiations?
Okay, I want to start out by saying that design build's not crooked. Okay, it's not. But if you could picture the owner of a company, and within that company is the architect and the construction company, and they answer to the same person. Okay. Now, everybody knows when you buy a car, I'm coming up with an analogy here. So when you buy a car, you have a choice between Mercedes or, a Cooper.
It's my last name.
There you go. Oh, there you go. So when you have these two, the Mercedes costs more. But you know what? The Cooper will get you there. It's the same thing in construction. The materials in business, there's a deal called value engineering. When the architect specs out something and it's expensive, Sometimes the suppliers, just like Texas over the door, go to the owner and say, listen, we can get you the same performance with this other manufacturer and save you money. Now, that doesn't make us really good guys. It's because we make more money by doing this, and the consumer gets a cheaper product. Well, there's no incentive for the architect to do that in a design build, because the end product, they're making their profit on a percentage basis. Okay. So what we've done is we've come in, we hire our own architect, and then we turn back around and have someone build it. And we hire a CM, a construction manager, to watch it for us. So when there's products out there that can help us get to the same finish line, but cheaper, we're now seeing that. Now, all of this is really going out the window because of inflation.
Sure.
It really is. You know, and at some point in time, we need to talk about the police department and how I am just absolutely amazed how we had a really good budget, the whole thing. We actually tacked money onto it to make sure we'd be okay. And the cost went through the window. That just, I have never seen a contingency onto a project, you know, what I call is a worst case scenario.
So for those that don't know, the police department, there was a bond passed in 2022, and it funded a police department, a fire department, and we're going to get to the specifics of that. And
Okay.
During the process, it's gone over budget. That you're referring to that police department, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So and this is a part of the price of doing business in today's just uncertain volatile markets. Only so many safeguards can be put in place by the people negotiating these contracts and to how inflation works. Is that correct?
The historic safe marks that you're calling it, it doesn't fit now. What you used to do at 10, 15%, even 25%, we blew that out of the market. It's not anybody's fault. It's just what it is.
Well, and the question comes up is, you know, and I don't know how to forecast this, but how does somebody, like, you know, a municipality who's using taxpayer funds for this stuff, do they say, well, maybe we ought to take a pause and wait a year or two to see if things stabilize, or do you chance it being worse? I don't know how to play that game. At some point you have to grow. You know, you have to keep up with growth, and I don't know what the answer is.
Well, let's look at it this way. When we bought the building we're in now, we was already like 10,000 or 8,000 feet too small.
Well, and they did it.
study.
They did it too small. That was, I think, in 15 or 16
Somewhere
they did
back-
that, and
back
it was
then, yeah.
They built it smaller than what was recommended at the time, which
Right.
now puts you in the spot to expand it sooner rather than later. I think your projections are for 15 years or more.
20 years.
20
I
years.
believe it's
Okay,
20
great.
years.
20. Okay.
Well,
Which is great. That's thinking long
it
term.
is, but we're not getting that building right now because we've had to downsize some of the budget and stuff. We found some more money to put in with it, but we're taking this from other projects.
Okay.
And our roads are in really bad shape right now in a lot of the areas. Hidden Creek is a mess, and we're going as fast as we can on that. So when we get through with this stuff, if we put it off in 5 years, so we put it off 5 years, and we're getting 20,000 people in here in the next 10 years, what have we accomplished?
I don't know the answer to that. That's
Well,
why I'm glad I'm not in your seat.
No, we got to move forward with this. We
Yeah.
got to find the money, but we can't do the nearly $70 million version that they're saying it's going to cost now to build what we wanted.
Wow.
I know this is
because your budget was
mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Our budget
it
was
was-
36 million,
Wow.
and we nearly doubled that. There's not any builder out there that would have seen that coming.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. Because the public safety facilities bond was for 52 million. And now
And
just
that
the
was
police
with the fire.
department.
That's with the fire department.
Yeah,
too,
that was
the
with the fire.
remodel.
Correct. That was a fire department for 4 bays, 11 officers, or 11 firefighters. Wow. So yeah, we'll dive into your bond stuff here
Okay.
and in the end of the show. But it's just the volatility and of the times.
And
It's
we're
just
not out
tough.
of the woods yet. We don't know what 2024 is going to be like.
Yeah. So,
But what I tell you this, we will not lay anybody off.
good for you.
No,
Good.
that's not going to happen.
Good. So, taxes and property taxes are the hot topic right now. We're hitting the November 7th election here. There's a lot of stuff trying to at the state level to the 88th legislative session. They're trying to push out some property tax relief in a growing community that's tough. And the bottom line is property taxes are out of control. And as I said, the legislators trying to provide relief. Burleson has actually lowered the property tax rate pretty much every year since you've been a mayor, and before that. So how taxes work for the listeners is every year it's a complicated formula, but basically any taxable entity is given a no new revenue rate and a voter approval tax rate, and that's kind of your left and right lateral limits on how low or how high you can go. If you go higher than the voter approval tax rate, you have to call a voter approval tax rate election to and send it to the voters. And you're pretty much going right in the middle, lowering that tax rate every year for the most part, and which is a testament in the growth and trying to play catch up with all the infrastructure. That's a pretty good thing. What are your thoughts on property taxes, where they stand in the state? And granted, that's not really the city's lane too much. But how do you feel about the entire package of that?
Well, I want to get something straight. The CAD board has been really beaten up. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, I knew nothing about how it worked. So I had lunch with the chief appraiser, spoke to him, had a really good lunch with him. And then there was a couple of guys that I knew. I called them up who was on the CAD board. Now, several years back,
this is the board of directors.
The
CAD
CAD board, yeah.
And the chief appraiser is appointed by the board of directors.
Correct.
Okay.
There you go. So everybody was beating up the CAD board, but in reality, the CAD board does nothing to do with evaluations. Nothing. They don't even look at them. They have three functions. One is to hire the chief appraiser. Two is to make sure that he's got a place to work. And three is to look at his budget and sign off on it. Okay. They have nothing to do with it, but the word crooked and dishonest and all this other stuff. I just had a really bad feeling that, I know these guys. I go to church with one of them for over 20 years. I know his family, the whole thing. He's not crooked. And that was a big deal to get somebody from Burleson on that board. So I'm going to support Toby Ford on this. Now, there's 4 other people that's running, and I had them come up and speak. We all put them on the ballot as far as the council. They're good people.
You're talking about Mr. Paul Jones, Ms. Amy Lingo, Mr. Dwayne Golding, and Mr. John Wood?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Every one of them could do this job. Now, the voting is not a typical voting. When what we will do is select who we want to put up in front. I'm going to make a strong case for Toby because he's already there. I know the he's salt of the earth. Absolutely. So I want him back, and council will talk about it. And then we'll probably divide the votes up between the however many we want to go with. I know that the school board is typically, all the ISDs are typically just dividing theirs up between the incumbents.
Yeah. And I think that's a little point of contention with a lot of people, because the reality is the ISDs, every single year they max out their Vader or call of Audrey. They are taxing people at the highest amount that they can. And when people begin to look at processes and how to make them more tolerable to the citizenry. So for those listening, if we as the people don't elect the CAD board of directors, we elect people that sit on the taxing entities, city council, school districts, counties, and then they use their votes based on the amount of taxable property in their areas to appoint. There's a big movement that's been going on for numerous years trying to pull the board of directors to the people, which would at least give the people a little bit better visibility, better awareness, and a way to change an individual by voting them out if they were unhappy with it. And most of the cities around have been very open to at least listening to the argument, but the school districts have not been open to listening to the argument. And that's troubling to somebody like me. It's troubling seeing that year after year after year, they tax at the highest rate. Burleson's not doing that.
Okay. So,
and I don't want to beat up the ISDs, but that's what they're doing. And they've been very closed doors to, and I mean, I sat in a board workshop in a local ISD where they flat out said that the state has everything to do with it. It really doesn't matter who we elect. Well, you shouldn't be saying that to people when property taxes are such a hot button item right now, in my opinion.
boy, I could go off. I really could. I mean, design build.
Mm-hmm.
That's something. I was sitting with some police officers, and when you put your students right by the front entrance with a big window in it, why do you put a window there? The aesthetics is what they go for.
Why does every classroom in new elementary schools, when you walk down the hallways, have walls of windows? They are not safe at all. They're so
that.
Open.
And that window costs money.
Yes,
it does. So,
and then now you're having to put film on them, which is expensive.
And
the state pushing.
But you don't want your kids going to school in a prison.
Correct.
Okay. So I understand this. I really do. And I'm not somebody that comes up and says, I have the answers. Mm-hmm. I don't. There might be legitimate answers on this. But from the security side, we shouldn't have all the windows in it. A lot of the things that's going on right now is, I'm not going to go there.
It's really hard to say no to anything that sounds good for the kids. It's tough.
I know.
It's tough. And sometimes adults have to be adults and make big decisions.
And the biggest problem that bothers me is the fact that there's a lot of people paying the school tax. They don't have they don't have any kids.
Yep. Okay.
We've got a lifespan in here where our kids are 12 years into the school, and when they move on, that debt's still there.
Joshua ISD right now is there's a bond on this. I think that's the closest to Burleson, where there's a bond on the ballot. A kid born today will pay 10 years into that bond after they graduate. So you have to think about, people have to look at the big picture here. It's a lot of money.
Okay. Let me tell you a story about Joshua. This was amazing. Years ago, when I still had Texas Overhead Door, and we were selling the doors to them. Do we need to do this in the next deal? Anyway, we were doing the doors for the construction people that were working at Joshua. Well, what Joshua did is they went and hired them a construction guy, and they started building their own schools. And they saved a ton of money. I mean, like a ton of money on this. They were so good that Godly called them up and said, would you come build ours? So this guy takes this group. It was an old man, retired construction, and he was running the crew and working for a salary. He goes, golly, they build theirs. Did a great job, saved tons of money. And then somebody called the state and said, you can't compete against the private sector.
I don't know what to say to that.
Okay,
yet.
So one company did really, really well, and all the citizens, we don't care about you. And that's Austin. That is Austin. That's what we deal with. They do a lot of good, but there's a lot of stuff up there that I just like, leave us alone.
No, I agree with you. People think that a lot of the local taxes stay here locally. So many ways they get funneled up to Austin and then distributed back out when behavior is correct. And it's a sad deal.
I got one that'll.
All right.
I'll bring it.
We'll be back for segment 2 on the breakdown. We're here with Mayor Chris Fletcher. Thank you.
Have you ever met a single person in your life that enjoys paying taxes? No one does. If you can't sleep at night because you have a huge problem with the IRS, I've got some free advice for you. This service is strictly limited to individuals that owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes. And if you qualify, we can guarantee that you won't be writing a big fat check to the IRS, or our services cost you nothing. The first 100 people that call today will get a free tax consultation worth $500. Stop worrying about your IRS problem. We can help you, we promise. Call the tax doctor right now. I mean right now, to learn more.
800-240-4587. 800-240-4587. 800-240-4587. That's 800-240-4587.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395.
Welcome back to the Breakdown, where we air most Thursdays at 5 p.m. We're here with the mayor of the city of Burleson, Mr. Chris Fletcher. He's on his second term, and we're talking about the challenges in today's volatile market and just how to service taxpayers and their money and the citizens of Burleson, and just how to move the city forward in this crazy volatile market with the growth that Johnson County and city of Burleson is experiencing. Before we get to our second segment, I'd like to remind everybody that Joco Community Radio is proud to be the voice of Johnson County, Texas, and is live 24/7 on the TuneIn Radio Network. www.tuneinjoco.com is the place to find all the ways to listen and watch. And the station app is also available for free on Android and Apple devices. Simply search your store, check out our lineup and more at www.jococommunityradio.com. This episode and more brought to you by Next Level Claims, making your insurance work for you. Reach out to your Texas sales rep at 844-TEX-HAIL. That's 844-839-4245 to take care of your hail damage. And be sure to dress your arms and more at thetiffy.com. So welcome back to the Breakdown. We're here with Mayor Chris Fletcher. Talking about TEX-HAIL. I don't know about you, but some of those last big hailstorms, I lost 2 cars and a roof, and everyone's backed up. It was brutal. Some of those hailstorms, but we're back here with Mayor Chris Fletcher, and we're talking about how he's lowered the tax rate, and just what he's trying to do to help save the citizens of Burleson some money, and try to be a good neighbor to the surrounding communities and Johnson County. And I'm going to bring up an infrastructure piece, and Mayor, under your leadership, you guys requested a 20-year review of infrastructure projects by TxDOT in the Johnson Hood cluster to shed light on why Burleson was behind on receiving their fair share of funds for infrastructure projects, and why some of the TxDOT growth was not happening here as it should be. That study revealed that Burleson and other cities were not being represented on boards that selected projects. Only county elected officials had a voice on the Regional Transportation Council, or RTC. And then after this study, you guys drafted modifications to the RTC bylaws, which allowed city elected officials to be on the RTC. The draft was passed and changes were made. Now city elected officials have the potential to serve on the RTC. And this increases Burleson's representation and voice on critical infrastructure and transportation matters in the region. This was a big thing that you campaigned on during your reelection bid on how you were bringing a lot of horsepower here to help speed up and streamline the infrastructure changes. Would you like to comment on that, sir?
Yeah, that was a big deal. I didn't realize what I was asking for. We have our commissioner, Rick Bailey. He's on the RTC for us right now, and he's doing a great job. Now, when we start talking about what TxDOT, the direction they go in, it's because of the Regional Traffic Coalition or committee, and then the North Texas Council of Governments. Those are the ones that says, okay, TxDOT, go build this under the leadership of Michael Morris. And what we was finding in the study we wanted was to see why we're not getting any money. Not why, but to verify we weren't getting any money. And it turned out that we weren't. And the problem was, here's Burleson, the largest town in Johnson County, and we didn't have a say. So,
so just so everybody can follow this, TxDOT does a lot of this infrastructure across the state. And
174, 35, 1187, all of these roads, the main thoroughfares, of which they like regional roads, is done by TxDOT, by state funds.
And all the different municipalities, different entities are vying to get their work to come to their towns and fix their stuff quicker.
At the county level.
At the county level.
Yeah,
and
this is very pertinent. This is the reason why we our county judge is so important. And we've got a great one right now in Chris Bedecker. So anyway, when we found out that the bylaws of the RTC, city officials can't be on it. Now, we're in a cluster with Hood. It's Johnson, Hood County. And in the Metroplex, city elected officials can be on that board, but not outside of the Metroplex or the Tarrant, Dallas. So we had Brian Langley at the time was our city manager. And I remember asking for the study, and the numbers were very discouraging. And I remember late on a Friday afternoon, he calls me up and said, "Can you come up here? I need to show you something." And we're not throwing anybody under the bus or anything. We just want to move forward, period.
Sure.
Okay. So we petitioned the RTC, and luckily this was years I was looking at the bylaws committee. So luckily, my being on the Tarrant Regional Traffic Coalition, I met all these other mayors, including Mayor Oscar Trevino, who was on the bylaws committee. And it turns out, because of these other connections that I have made, out of the 8 people on the bylaw committee, I knew 5 of them. So I was able to go to them and say, "This is it. We're not just a gateway for Johnson County. We're the gateway for Fort Worth, and we're not getting any roads." And that got their attention, and they wound up changing the bylaws, which was I didn't realize it was a big deal. Changing the bylaws where city elected officials now have the chance of being on the RTC.
And that's awesome. And here again, Burleson is as it's a little growing, big city. I guess used to be a small city. It's starting to be big, but
Yes.
So many other communities pass through Burleson and do business here. They shop, they dine, they have business, and they're going to and from work, on recreation, coming through here. So that's very, very, very important.
And I hold a certain, responsibility for our small towns. I really do. They struggle with when they get this growth, they're hurting. So if I can do something at the county level or to work with those guys, and hats off to Bedecker also, the judge has started bringing all the mayors together. There used to be animosity between Cleveland and Burleson. That
sure did.
That's gone.
That's good.
It's gone.
Good.
Scott, Mayor Kane and I have become good friends. We work on projects together. We're working on changing the election process so citizens don't have to go to 3 different places to vote.
That's brutal.
So, and that's getting the county involved. The relationships, the mayor is not a job just to run the meetings. It's not a problem running the meetings. The mayor is the connections around the city that has to be done. You can't do this stuff by yourself. You have to go out and talk. And I really am an introvert. I get through it today and I'm give out. The extrovert just gets fired up. Okay.
Sure.
So this is a hard job in that sense. But when we see the accomplishments that the city's doing, it's worth it. It really is. And I'm hoping to follow the same lead that Parker County did. So,
Well, and you talk about some of your accomplishments, and the bottom line is finances have improved under Mayor Fletcher's leadership. You guys have received an upgraded bond rating from Moody's Investor Services from an A3 to an A2. This rating places the city of Burleson in top 5% of communities nationally. You've increased fund balances in all your major operating funds. No utility rate increases over the past 2 years. I think maybe the storm caused some issues, but that's not has nothing to do with the city.
It was a storm plus everything drying out.
Sure.
A lot of main lines were breaking because it was drying up underneath.
And then lowered property tax by 5.39 cents, which is more than a 7% reduction in 2 years. And that's the tax rate. And you did a homestead exemption. First homestead exemption in the city's history was created in fiscal year 2022, and it increased it to 2% in 23. Can you talk a little bit about that homestead exemption for the city? Everyone's familiar with
there were
state
several
ones.
people on council that was wanting that, and you can't just turn that exemption on all at once. So we're doing it 1% increase every year, and then we'll look at it again at the end of the 5. We got big plans, but you got to figure that into your budget.
Sure.
You can't just give it away. It's something's got to pay for that. So yeah, I was really excited about that, and we're behind all the other towns. Everybody else already had this. Okay. But we had several people on council that was wanting to do that.
Well, that's good that you can recognize, where some of the deficiencies are and make up for it. And that's all anybody can ever ask.
That's right.
And that's a great thing. So, so we talked a little bit earlier about the police station. We're going to go into, the bond from 2022. There was 2 propositions that, passed. Prop A was for $33,645,000. And that was mainly infrastructure and some roads and some intersection improvements. And then Prop B, which was for basically first responders. You were building a new fire station and expanding quite a bit the police department.
No, the other way around.
Sorry.
We were adding on to the police department and remodeling one of the stations.
Oh, okay. I apologize. I thought it was a new fire department.
Well, we've got that on the books up in the west or the new
out west.
That's 3,000 rooftops, but there's also some remodeling going in.
Okay.
And that's the fire station up by the toll road. That's going to be a shared between the police and the
correct. You're putting a substation in there, I think. Correct. Okay. So, and before we start diving into this bond, everybody needs to understand, these propositions passed in 2022. At the time, there was 31,499 voters, registered voters in the greater Burleson area. Only 1,780 people turned out to vote. Was 6% of the registered voters. That's absolutely appalling. If there's anything that anybody can do, get out and exercise your right to vote. Everybody deserves and it's been earned through blood, through generations, the right to vote, and everybody should understand that they have a little bit of responsibility to do that. And I'm highlighting this because we're in the middle of an election now, and we're at the end of early voting, and voting day is November 7th. There's a lot of state constitutional amendments on that, and there's some local issues. I don't think there's in Burleson, but up in Joshua there's a bond. Get out and vote. I pull the veteran card a lot, and I'm a veteran, and everybody wants to always say, thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. Don't thank a veteran for his service. Go live your life honoring the sacrifices they made. And by going out and voting is one way that we can do that.
Well said.
Yeah. And just do that. Just take the few minutes and get out and vote, please.
And let's do one other thing here. Okay. If you have an idea that might increase the volume on voting, send it to me at mayor@burlesontx.com.
Mayor@burlesontx.com.
Burleson TX. Send it to me. We want ideas. I've already asked the city secretary to come up with places to start putting signs out. Council's going to look at that and they have to approve that. But we need signs, nothing supporting anybody, just saying we got an election coming up and putting some money, maybe put it out on the digital board out on 35. But some way or another, we have to get people involved in our election. We lost our newspaper. That was a big deal. We've got to get, and social media is great and as bad as it can be. Not everybody goes to social media. And a lot of people's dropped off. I've dropped off a lot.
Sure.
Since the election.
Sure.
So yeah,
social media is not fun. It's brutal. I participate in a lot and it's brutal. It's ugly and it is what it is. It's,
so a lot of people don't go there. We had a viewing a text dot at the old Holiday Inn down here on 35 and 820. And I got a lot of statements saying they didn't know about it. Well, we put it on our social media and a lot of people didn't see it.
Yeah.
And that's telling me that that's not the total, it's part of it, but it's not the way to go. So if anybody has any suggestions how we can get our election information out better or do a better job, I'd love to hear it. Thank you. And I'd appreciate
Thanks
it.
for being open to that. So Prop A, the main infrastructure one, you've got a few projects that are underway. Wilshire Boulevard and 174, you're doing traffic improvements.
Right.
You're doing some neighborhood street builds. Alsbury, Hewland to County Road 1020. You're doing a lot of sidewalk upgrades.
Yes.
Dual left turn lanes at Lakewood and 174. Those are pretty much what's underway now. Are those all going well? And can Burleson residents expect some improvement in traffic? Is everything going smooth with that?
The previous city manager had a 5-year plan on this. And you got to remember, a lot of these are engineering, design and engineering on that stuff. We're on schedule on all of that stuff. The only thing that the police department's the only holdup right now because it went way over budget. Boy.
So all these other ones are going for the most part on
well
budget, on time.
You know, we've got the poles up for the dual lane turn on Hewland on the 174. We got the poles up, but here's where we're waiting for TxDOT to come finish up. TxDOT's got their own schedule.
That's true.
So we've got our side done. Renfro is going well. They're out there doing markers, and we're going to change some things of how we get things shovel ready because of what Parker County's doing.
So for shovel ready, that's when TxDOT will come out, and they love shovel ready stuff. And I'll let Mayor Fletcher talk about this a little more, but pretty much the closer that City of Burleson or any entity that is needing infrastructure done that requires TxDOT, the closer they can get to having it be ready to start the work, the more prioritization TxDOT gives it. Can you explain that piece and how you're navigating what you've learned over in Parker County, sir?
There is several entities to building a road. Like let's take Renfro. We're going to increase that to 4 lanes with turning lanes. Okay. TxDOT has to look at, and NTTA does too. They have to look at the environmental. They have to look at the right of ways. In other words, people own some of that land. They have to go make them a fair price on that and get that taken care of. A lot of times we have utilities in where we want to build high lines or underground sewers, broadband, a lot of that stuff that has to be moved. And when you take a look at the state doing that, they don't have a vested interest like the citizens. So when we say we're shovel ready right now, we have the engineering done, period. Parker County has everything done. All you got to do is straighten it out and pour concrete. So that's where we need to go. Parker County has already got their engineering, their right-of-ways bought, and their utilities moved waiting on them. And they're going to have TxDOT out there within a year after they presented it. We will set 2 to 3 years out at least if they want the project.
So what has to be done to get more in line with how Parker County's streamlining this? What
do
what
more
needs to be done?
Do more of what I call the face-to-face to the citizens. And we can treat our citizens better when we're buying right of way. we care when we have to negotiate with the citizen. City Hall's just a few miles away. When TxDOT does it, it's all by emails and this, and we'll get out there in a month and we'll talk to you about it, or we'll do this. It's harder. It's harder on them than us.
Sure.
That could take a year just to get the right of way purchased. And then you're dealing with the utilities too. So when we can take that off of TxDOT's plate, and also the other thing is if you can make that a regional road, okay? If this road, like 174, that's going to help Cleburne, Joshua, and Dust.
Sure.
That's a regional road. That's when they get excited about doing it. If it's just for Burleson, we'll get to it when we want to.
Well, and as much as Burleson's a thoroughfare, I mean, it makes sense to do it that way.
I had a drone study done by the police department.
Sir?
They took the drone
Uh-huh.
and went out on 917 and 35 and had them take pictures of in the morning and in the evening. And I sent it to Michael Morris of TxDOT. I said, this is what we're dealing with. Okay. And it helped. Michael Morris is a great guy to work with, but he has got a lot on his plate. Every town in Texas is wanting a road.
I can
and
imagine.
We're competing for that. So yeah, he's been a great friend of Burleson here lately.
So Burleson's looking at taking some of the burden from TxDOT, bringing it locally. It's better relations with your neighbors, and it speeds up the process. And that's
correct.
Pretty good thing. That's awesome to hear.
Correct. This helps everybody. Okay.
So some of the other things that haven't started yet, we are widening County Road 1020 at Alsbury. You're widening 174 Hewlin at Wilshire intersection.
Yes.
Most of those things, Hillside Drive and Elk Drive, 1902 pedestrian mobility.
That's a long-term thing the city wanted.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And it's also a state initiative too.
Okay. Renfro, FM 3391 is widening. And then Wilshire from Hewlin to the city limits, you're expanding that too. So most of the other infrastructure projects are those pretty much most of those haven't started yet. Everything looks like looking good.
Now, some of the other TxDOT jobs that's going on that doesn't have anything to do with our bond is the fact that they're going to be doing the intersection at 917 and 35. Then they're taking 917 all the way to Mansfield. And Renfro will be going into 917. That's all 4 lanes. Renfro's getting dedicated turn lanes where 917 isn't. Now, The reason I bring up the intersection at 917 and 35 is all the cold storage business that we've got out there and getting the semis onto the truck. That intersection is dangerous.
Fair enough. So that covers Prop A. Everything looks like it's pretty much on schedule and running on budget. So we're going to go to Prop.
Right, I didn't say it was running on budget.
Okay.
We've already the intellectual lighting. We came up with a shortfall on that too, but we've got that covered.
But nothing like what's going on with the police department.
No, nothing like that. We've applied for a grant to get that overage.
Okay.
And I think we're going to get that.
So Prop B was pretty much the first responder proposition, and it was going to be an expansion of the police headquarters.
Yes.
Quite a bit. So a little bit of background. In 2009, a study of facility needs of Burleson Police Department was conducted, and the study recommended 32,000 square feet. It was built this is well before your time, but it was built too small for that. And in 2015, they remodeled it, 8,000 square foot less than what was recommended. So it was built smaller than it should have been, which put us in the position to need another bond sooner. And now it's pretty much going to expand. It looks like you're going to go to about 56,000 square feet. It was recommended between 53 and 69, and you're going right about in the middle of that. But tell us about this over budget, how you're navigating that. How does that, what happens with that?
I'm trying to remember my numbers. When they came back to us, the police department, when we first started it was 29 million. We put 25% on top of that just to make sure we had the money to finish it. And nobody could have seen this coming. When it came back, it was in the upper 60 millions to do the project. And this 60, I mean, we was at 36 million for the project just when we presented.
That was for
the
both
bond.
the fire station and the police. It was 36.
I think that was just for the police station.
Okay.
Okay. I don't remember. 36 million was just for the police station. Okay. And we blew that out of the water. I don't know if it was under bid to start with. I don't know if it's all expansion. The fact that the concrete just went through the roof.
I got a buddy that does big commercial concrete, and I'm talking like Windstar size, big. And he says just on the Texas border, it's $30 more a yard just to cross the border, just because it's Texas. And that's just a market thing. So I can appreciate that totally.
Oh, it's
and
nuts.
it's just by crossing the border, it jumps.
And we're using it because you see all the concrete warehouses going up on 35, 67 over by Ennis, and and there's an IRS got involved in this that allowed them to write off their unrented rent, to be able to write it off.
So they're still building it.
You can build
So
this
easy.
thing and get a deduction if you don't rent it.
So is this police specific, or is this pretty much everything that's going
Everything.
up now?
Everything. Now stuff is coming down, everything, including the steel. Here recently, the steel has started coming down. Concrete's holding.
Concrete's holding.
But we've got a year before we start turning dirt. And I'm praying that prices are going to come back down. And in the contract, I was specific in the contract that when prices come down, we get the benefit, not the construction company.
That was in the contract.
That's in the contract.
And I think that's a huge thing is, and going back to the design build and stuff like that. Some of the way that some of the contracts are negotiated through the taxing entities, it's pretty sad. Godly ISD they had passed $168 million bond. They went $36 million over budget in 10 months. Had to cancel had to cancel pretty much all their expansions, all their renovations. Really sad, and built all the shiny new stuff. And their contract was negotiated so bad that they were actually paying hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to try to keep it on schedule with no guarantee to keep it on schedule. And it just fell way behind. I don't know what the answer is to that. I know that that sounds like a really bad contract. Joshua's calling for a big bond now, Joshua ISD, and
they need it. I don't
yeah,
know.
they do. Bonds have a valid purpose. They absolutely do.
Those
have a
kids
valid
need a
purpose.
school. I understand that, but I hadn't looked at the plans. I'm talking strictly as in general. You don't need the Taj Mahal.
No. Godly tried to pass an $889 million bond for
And
3,000 kids. It's
Greg,
insane.
there was no accountability on that either.
Absolutely not.
None. They didn't know what they was going to build. Nothing.
No. Yeah. Anyway, sir, thank you, Mayor Chris
you.
Fletcher. It was a pleasure. Appreciate you coming on here and answering the tough questions. Thank you, sir. Follow the city of Burleson and get out to vote.
From Burleson to Venus and Grandview to Godly, this is the voice of Johnson County, Joco Community Radio.
Why have thousands of aspiring authors teamed up with Christian Faith Publishing to publish their book? Because Christian Faith Publishing is an author-friendly publisher who understands that your labor is more than just a book. We provide authors freedom and flexibility throughout the publishing process, professional book editing, award-winning design, and some of the highest royalty structures in the publishing industry. And as always, you will retain 100% of the rights to your book.
I was looking to find a company that I could trust, one that assisted in the editing process completely.
The most important qualities that I was looking for was a publisher who was honest and upfront, no hidden costs or fees, and owning the rights to my own work.
Christian Faith Publishing will publish, market, and sell your books in all major bookstores, online booksellers, as well as specialty Christian bookstores. Call for your free author submission kit.
800-978-4812. 800